Newsletters are like a big sticking point for people. So many people hate starting them, hate writing them. I love them. I think they're super fun. I run one for many of my sites now, and yeah, they're one of my favorite things to do. Never thought that would happen. But one of the ways I fell in love with them was using AI writers to help me get better at them. So the very first thing you can do is brainstorm some email list ideas with ChatGPT. There's so many like different freebies out there from email marketing gurus that will give you like ideas for certain seasons, anything like that. So you can even feed those into ChatGPT and be like, okay, here's 5 ideas for email lists. Give me 20 more, or adapt them to my niche. All doable. But let's say you're starting from the complete basics. We're gonna make up a niche because I just need something for us to talk about here. But let's say we have a gluten-free baking site. So, hi ChatGPT, you are going to act as an expert and newsletter writer. Please brainstorm 20 ideas for email newsletters for my blog. My blog is a gluten-free baking website for women with celiac disease. I don't know, try to give it some extra context there. We can even say these newsletters, will be published in fall. Just try to give it a bit more context to come up with things, otherwise it will get pretty general. Now, one thing I've noticed it does is it loves to come up with like kind of a kitschy theme for the email. So it'll like come up with like pie perfection, as you can see. I don't use this for like the subject line. What I'm using this for more so is just topical ideas I could go with. So, oh, how interesting. I picked the month when I guess National Celiac Awareness Day is. Funny. But here we have a bunch of options now. And what I like to do is just go through them and see what feels right. So we have like a roundup of fall flavors, always kind of a classic for baking websites. We have, more. This is kind of the same as the above one, in my opinion. We have doing a gluten-free Thanksgiving recipe feast kind of roundup. I think that's such a good idea. Like doing that in September for Canadians, or October, I guess, for Americans. So it's a month ahead. That way people can like prep. Such a good idea to help people plan for that holiday. Then we have warming up with gluten-free soups and bread. So roundups of those specific types of food. Halloween treats, pie perfection. Like this is the thing, like some of the names are just gonna be a bit kitschy, but we've got a lot of options here. I even like that it goes into like baking with gluten-free flours, and then it's not necessarily specific to fall, but pie is very common in fall and other things. So gives you some options there. We got snack ideas, so many options here. So let's just say, I like not Halloween one, pardon me. I like the Thanksgiving one. Great. Let's go with option number 3. Before you start writing, you need to know how to write a good email. Here is an example of an email in my style. And then I'm gonna paste this, but this is something that I use all the time. So we're gonna scroll through to show you what it says. But essentially, the first prompt, where is the top, is please define this as Nina's style. So you can use your own name, you could use brand style, you could use just like style 1, it doesn't really matter. We want it defined. It is important that it understands what this is. So then I've inputted a past email that I sent to my travel audience. So it just has like a bunch of information about studying abroad. I think this is about like me missing my first flight. Yeah, so it gives a bunch of information about like the time I missed my very first flight and how things went terribly wrong, and some information. Now, usually I end with say read when you've read this. If I'm starting with this prompt and I'm not starting with the idea, here we're starting with the idea. I want ChatGPT to read the newsletter that I have, define it as Nina's style, and then leave it alone for a minute while I then give him instructions to write the email. Here, we've already got the topic, so we don't need that. So I can say, I've already told it actually to adapt it and then write it in Nina style. So I'll just say, write an email on option number 3 in Nina's style. And then we'll run it. And then you just need to see what its output is going to be. We might need to adjust this. We might need to change our prompt a bit. You can see here it said like, yep, Glasgow levels of chaos. This is an entirely different audience, so they won't know what the heck that means if this isn't something that I sent them beforehand. So might need to tell it, actually, they don't know anything about Glasgow. Don't reference Glasgow. You can literally just tell it to do that. But we're getting a lot of interesting information here. I like that it's like, you might be thinking, why bother with the whole gluten-free Thanksgiving thing? My first gluten-free pie looked more like a Frisbee. I don't really know. I guess it was flat. I mean, I was gonna say, I'm like, they're round, so that's fine, but nope, that's fair. Oh, something happened. Sometimes errors happen, not the end of the world. So what we're just gonna do is regenerate. That's why the regenerate button exists. So we'll give him another shot. Maybe now he won't reference Glasgow. It's probably gonna take him a moment, so we will let him run. But I just want to talk about some other things that you could do. So if you don't have an email yourself, put in someone else's email, put in one of those templates you can find online when you search like email marketing template and just see a rough idea of like what you could do for this. That works. As usual, I do recommend writing one first just to get like kind of your hands-on approach to it, and then seeing how it comes out, but gives you something. So here we've got it mentioning Aunt Margie. I don't have an Aunt Margie, so we're gonna have to tell it not to say that, but we can adjust it. So we've got, it's still running. Cool. I think it's stuck for a second. But so some things we can also do is feed it more information. So I just said, okay, write about gluten-free Thanksgiving. If it's your site, you actually have recipes you can recommend. So you can say, include this recipe, this recipe, this recipe, this recipe, and it will mention those, which is really helpful. So you can even say like once it's done, so I'm gonna give it a few things. I don't have an Aunt Margie, remove that reference. Please include please include a mention of a recipe for mince pies. I didn't see it mention that, so I'm trying to think of something it didn't use. And then include something about Vitamix blenders. Let's just say that way you get an affiliate mention there. So here I'm giving it a reference to mince pies. It's gonna be, let's just say I have a gluten-free mince pie recipe. I've said, don't talk about Aunt Margie, she doesn't exist. And I've said, mention something about Vitamix blenders. Maybe I have no idea how to fit that in, but I really want to include some reference to it so that we can include an affiliate somewhere. Now, I have no idea where it might include that. It might even do it in the PS, but let's see. Here we go. And here's the secret. My Vitamix blender has been a lifesaver. Whether it's silky gravies, pie fillings, or even whipped cream on the side. That's a really good mention, to be honest. Like, I'm actually like, wow, okay, you fit that together. Didn't actually know if that would fit. So I think that's really helpful. We've got a nice like option here. You can even tell it, make it longer, make it shorter, mention, and then like explain a specific instance that happened to you. There's so many ways to adapt this. So the way that I would then be like, okay, maybe I need to mention Thanksgiving 2020, my golden retriever puppy knocked the whole table over and we found him with the turkey on his head having the time of his life. Luckily, it was gluten-free because he's also allergic to wheat. That is true. My dog is celiac, just like I am. But I don't run a celiac cooking blog because I don't know anything about gluten-free food. Please add this story into the email. So if you want to reference personal stories, like I could definitely have built all this into my first prompt, but I want to show you how you can adapt it too. Because like it is kind of fun to let it run and then just see what it comes up with and then adjusting it. And I do think it's quite entertaining to see if it has some things I wouldn't have thought of including or wouldn't have thought of addressing and then adjusting it. I do think it's kind of fun to write with it that way. But here, God, it's working this in really well. I really like it. Now I want to start one of these blogs and share it. So you can see here, speaking of memories and menu crafting, here's this information. And then chaos, my golden retriever puppy in all his enthusiastic glory managed to knock the entire table over. And where did we find him? With the turkey perched happily on his head. And the silver lining, the entire spread was gluten-free, which is a blessing considering his wheat allergy. Yes, our furry family members have dietary needs too. So it kind of like, I would say it's a bit awkward with its segue to the next thing, but like not bad. You could definitely just add a sentence in there that's just like, luckily this year, or hopefully this year I'll actually get to taste it or something, or taste the dinner. So lots of ways that you can adjust these. You can also say, make it longer, take out the PS. You can build new templates with it. You can reference certain people. You can add more information about a product that you want. Like if you want to shout out the Vitamix blender and make it the focus of this, you're going to want to feed it more information about the Vitamix so it knows what to include and gives more information there. Now, the last thing you can do is ask it to add internal links for you. Well, I call them internal links. It's not internal links, it's a newsletter, but it's to your site. So it's still, I don't know. Anytime it's to my own site, I think of it as an internal link. It's a weird thing I do. Whoops, I hit enter weirdly there. Sorry, guys. So anyway, another cool thing that you can do with ChatGPT is get it to add links into this for you. So if you're like, okay, I need my Vitamix blender to link to my affiliate link, and you know your affiliate link and you don't want to spend the time, like let's say you mentioned it 20 times and you want it to link every time, I can say, please link every mention of Vitamix blender in the email to the link sheknowsseo.co. I'm just using like my website link. I think that's just easier. Using markdown hypertext. Oh, I always have it written down, so I always hyperlink. That's what I always do wrong. Hyperlink, please. And so now what it's going to do is give you the same email, but it's just going to add those links in for you, and then you don't have to do it later, which is quite nice. So something pretty easy to do. If you have like a bunch of them, you just list them all out for it. That way it'll have them ready. Now, I probably should have picked something from the first sentence because it's going to take a second to get to this section, but it'll get there and then we'll be able to see the link. Almost there, I think. There we go. Yep, so there we go. So now we've got the link there, which is just an easy way to add links to your emails so you don't have to do it later. So if, let's say, each of those pie recipes had their own, like a different post on your site, I would then basically say the same thing for Vitamix blender to this, comma, apple to this, pumpkin to this. But be careful because it's not discriminate about like then those words. What you can do instead is say in paragraph, whatever paragraph this is, link just these specific ones. That's also doable. Now I would probably specifically say like pumpkin pie or something. And I do typically use this more so for like multiple links. If I just need to do it once, it's probably easier for me to just like do it myself. But in like a giant email, if you had like something really significant, pretty easy to do. So this is how I adapt my emails with ChatGPT for a newsletter. If you're doing something like a welcome sequence, or maybe you want a next email, you can also have ChatGPT come up with that for you. So asking ChatGPT to write a welcome sequence of emails that come up with the subjects for them, and then we could finish this one and say, great, now let's write the next email in the sequence. I would remind him and say, okay, this one is going to be about pumpkin picking or something, and then give him prompts again and he'll run. You can just kind of copy the initial prompt we gave just about like what the topic is and who our audience is, and then just run it again down here if you've had too many conversations with it. Now, if you're in GPT 3.5, I would always reprompt it. I do think that's really important, but we can kind of use this one right here more as our template rather than needing to re-enter a new template again and redefine Nina's style. It should kind of already have that. In GPT-4, it has 25,000 words it can look back on, so we probably don't have an issue yet with it having reached a maximum. Then if you want to do something like write a sequence of emails, keep moving through it and then have it reference things from the past email. So you could see in that very first one, the first attempt we did where it referenced Glasgow before it glitched, it was referencing the template email. So if we have this email here in the back of its mind and next we talk about pumpkin picking, it'll remember that we talked about pumpkin pie and reference it. Yes, that's not that much of a stretch, I know, pretty common link, but this one was a pretty general post. There wasn't necessarily a specific for it to pull from. Maybe if I said my dog had his paws in the pumpkin pie, it would then be we could pick a pumpkin and maybe my dog won't get his paws in it this year. So things like that, it can then reference between each other and create a through line that really does help kind of continue the narrative for your users. But you can also use this for something that's not super narrative. You can use this to promote new posts, to promote a specific affiliate, to promote a product that you sell. I'm using a storytelling example just for our sake. You can use something that is more businessy, that's totally okay. You can use this for sales emails, for a sales sequence. You can use this for a cold re-engagement subsequence where you're trying to build people back into your audience. Lots of options here. A fun one that you can do is take an email that you've already sent out and that maybe a certain number of people didn't respond to and give it the subject line. So let's just say, great, now forget the above. We're just going to do something new. I sent an email titled Fall in Love with Fall Foods. I don't know, just coming up with some sort of title. What are 10 click-worthy variations to inspire more clicks? And then I want to tell it what the email is about because that could be anything. The email is specifically about fall pies that are gluten-free and savory side dishes. Ignore the fact that I cannot write and type at the same time. But I've now given it what our past email subject line was, and it's going to come up with some more for me. It does have an annoying habit, to be honest, of always doing 2-sentence subject lines, so they're quite long. So what I do is then I just kind of adjust it myself. Or you train it and say, here are some examples of successful subject lines, and tell it either give it some of your past ones that did well, or train it. So, and by training it, I mean get back to basics and teach it. A good subject line is, I don't know, I'm going to make up some stats now, 8 words long, has an emoji, uses the word fall in it, I don't know, uses alliteration, whatever. You can then train it to adjust to that. I personally would not use a colon in my email subject lines. Maybe you would. I think the question mark one looks better than most of the others, but these give me some options. The way that I typically train it is I will go to someone like Kate Dossler or Liz Wilcox, both of whom give out one of their freebies is a list of subject lines, and I'll just copy 5 at random and be like, here are some examples of good subject lines. And then I don't have to write new ones. And then it just gives me, or it gives ChatGPT some context on short, to the point, kind of punchy, kind of pithy, that just good subject lines that aren't this novel style that I guess it was naturally trained on by the system. So then you can pick out one that works for you. If you don't love these, just ask it to make more, or say, I like the first one, but I want it to be 5 words, but I don't want it to have a colon. I do find it doesn't really know what a colon is, so sometimes saying that is unhelpful to it, but it'll give you some extra context here that you'll be able to then create a better title for the next one. So what I do then is I resend the email to people who didn't open the first one. I don't do this a ton, to be honest, just been time poor lately, but this is a very easy way to do it. That way maybe the first subject line just didn't grab their attention. And anyone who sends me one that says resend and then the title, I delete that so fast because I'm like, there was either a reason I didn't read the first one because I didn't care about the subject, it didn't sound interesting to me, or I was just too busy and now you seem kind of rude and impatient. So sending it with a different title on a different day can be a really good way to grab their attention. And maybe that first one just didn't quite make sense for them. Maybe they got, if you did like an A/B test of the headline, maybe they got test A and A didn't perform as well. This gives you another option. But I do recommend coming up with like a new subject and not just like reusing the one that worked best, because some people will have gotten that one. So this is just a good way to increase your open rates for your emails. You can also feed it an email that didn't do well and ask it, why didn't this email do well? So like if I were to, let's actually just like test it on this one here, because now we've asked it to forget that it did all this. So let's take this. Great. Forget the above, please. Here is an email I sent to my subscribers, but it didn't have a good click-through rate on the Vitamix. What can I do to make it more click-worthy for affiliate conversions? And typically I would then either have it set so it has like a memory that this is like what my niche is about, or I would feed it the information there. So it's going to kind of have to go off the fact that it doesn't know what our niche is. I'm hoping it understands to some extent, but it seems like it got kind of a rough idea. Perfect, here we go. So first it usually summarizes the strategies it's going to go for, and then it's going to actually put them into action. Oh, it looks like it tried to link an image. Interesting. It's pulling a review from somewhere that may or may not be true. So you're going to have to check this, but I think it's a great change that it's made. I mean, it's completely changed what this post was about and has made it much more of an affiliate thing. But you can see it still pulled courtesy of Playful Puppies, even though it doesn't really seem to have much of an idea why. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's extending. Perfect. I like that better. Okay. So I was going to say, if it just starts with every passing Thanksgiving, it's a bit odd. But okay, so we've got, here's my secret weapon, Vitamix in action. Let's just see what that is. Nope, it's a made up link. Sometimes it does that. Special for you. Okay, so it's trying to offer an exclusive deal that may or may not exist. It has a review from that's likely made up. So I would then sub these out with real things. But essentially what it's trying to do is just like show it off a bit better. And since this email admittedly was not meant to highlight the Vitamix and that was a random add-in, pretty good job. I like it. I think it's a good option. You could even say like, those aren't real. Here's the video link. Here's the special discount. Here's the actual review. Oh, here, yeah, it's definitely not real because it's per Nina's recommendation. Never touched a Vitamix in my life, so don't really even know what the difference is between it and normal stuff. But yeah, so not real. And so you would just then need to go in and like tell it what the real things are, which is great because it's going to essentially help you establish a strategy and then you can adjust to it. Pretty simple, very easy to do at a certain point. And I think it's a lot of fun. So these are the different ways that I use ChatGPT to make email marketing fun, interesting, and like, I don't know, more engaging as well. It lets you write a lot more, a lot quicker. And if you're really stuck on like ways to add affiliates or products, just ask ChatGPT. I also love using it to adapt things. I'm in Liz Wilcox's email marketing membership where she provides like a Mad Libs template kind of thing every week for an email. So it'll kind of be like fill in the blank. I just feed it the fill in the blank and then tell it kind of what, I don't necessarily say like adjective this, like I don't match it up that significantly, but I will say like, okay, adapt this email for, and then I talk about my niche and my audience. And then I also talk about, yeah, like whatever I'm trying to think of a past one. Let's just say the email is about like, yeah, something that went wrong this week. I will then say, okay, something that went wrong this week is, and then give it an actual thing that went wrong for it to pull from. Kind of like this like made up dog Thanksgiving thing that might have happened for fake Nina, who runs a gluten-free bakery baking restaurant. Jesus, baking niche site. So this is going to allow me to do it more so that it's adapted to me. But for that one, I start with defining my style first, and then I feed the template, and then I ask it to adapt the template to Nina's style as well, so it sounds more like me. Because I do have a distinctive voice, I am like pretty casual and chatty, and so I don't want to use maybe one of those templates that you would just find on Google that are more like for a business or for an e-commerce brand or something to send information. I want to send something that is fun and interesting and lighthearted, and yeah, it's going to sound like me for my users. So I hope you have fun with email marketing now. It is not as scary as some people seem to think it is, and it can be really easy if you're doing it this quickly and being able to customize it so well to your site. You'll be able to sit down in a day and like easily get your email marketing done for a month, or even maybe for multiple months, honestly. Don't spend like eons making it the perfect email. Kind of the good thing is that email is pretty casual, like talking to a friend, so it doesn't need to be like the most perfect thing to ever exist. It doesn't have to have keywords. It doesn't have to have, I don't know, a certain number of media images or whatever. Like it can just be fun. And ChatGPT lets me kind of keep it fun so that I keep doing this and enjoying what I'm doing. And I hope you do too. And I hope that this also encourages you, if you've been neglecting your list, to start paying attention to them. Okay, I will see you in the next lesson.